Well, we may be a day late and a dollar short, but I love college football conference realignment. Actually, I don't really love it. I think what they're doing to each other is terrible, and I think it's all about greed. But hey, one of the things I do love is uh, thinking about posturing and trying to figure out what the future could look like. So, in the latest round of college football realignment, we have a completely gutted Conference USA. Now, I have to say that Conference USA was always kind of this stretch for almost, I think, everybody because it truly was a countrywide sort of a airplane league, very difficult to create rivalries, etc. So here are my musings for what could be done. Now, some of this is actually uh, like I said, a day late and a dollar short because it sounds like Conference USA is in negotiations with New Mexico State University, Liberty University, and UConn, which you will see is some of what I thought they might do anyways. So what we have left after, let's see here, both the Sun Belt and the American has gutted Conference USA is these five core schools. Well, I'm going to call it six because Marshall hasn't left yet, but really they have. And so here's what we've got. We've got Western Kentucky, we've got Middle Tennessee State, Florida International, all the way down here. Louisiana Tech, which I would consider one of the core members of Conference USA, and UTEP, which is way out west. So with those five, that's basically what they'll be working with. Now, it's rumored that though that Marshall University, which is up here in West Virginia, is in negotiations with the Sun Belt. So I'm going to take them off the list here as those who have remained. Even though I think there's a possibility that they could stay. But in order to keep the league afloat, you have to have at minimum six football playing members to be in the FBS. So easy fix for that is you invite all of the independents. Now there's more independents than what I'm going to show here, but the obvious independents that would keep you afloat. And those would be the University of Connecticut or UConn, way up here, UMass up here, New Mexico State University, and Liberty. Now, the advantages to that are obviously that you keep the league afloat. Basically, it's save the league time. But the interesting thing is that because they are outliers to the core area of the where several schools are together, is that you can make football only invites, if you will, right? So UConn wants to be in the Big East, great for their Olympic sports and basketball. But for football, they really need a home. So why not do a football only invite? As well as UMass. UMass also plays Olympic sports in a different league. And you don't necessarily need them to play with you. So why not have a travel partner with UConn and UMass? Same goes for UTEP. UTEP is already in the Conference USA, but adding New Mexico State, which has been independent for several years now, is a great travel partner. I don't necessarily believe, though, that New Mexico State University really would want to be in Conference USA. I mean, they have a struggling budget, so why don't you just invite them as a football-only member, right? They could stay in the WAC, which is mostly regionalized. They have some up in Seattle and some kind of around there. But why not ask UTEP, and this would be controversial, but why not ask UTEP to join the WAC for Olympic sports? And then they could be football only as well. That way you can regionalize. One of the problems with these conferences that are smaller conferences with smaller budgets, smaller athletic departments budgets is travel. It's a huge problem. Conference USA is really a problem when it comes to traveling. Look at that. They've got people from UTEP and NMSU all the way to UConn or Florida. So the real core, the way to help the conference grow would be to establish regional rivalries and regional universities that they could engage with. Now, because an FCS team takes time to transition to FBS, because they may have to add more sports, they definitely have to add more scholarships. It takes a ton of money and a lot of logistics. You now have these 4 schools that bolster the football area, and basically save the league. You could then invite the following FCS upgrades for Olympic sports and maybe more for football as well. So we have universities like Southern Illinois, which is not far from a core of Middle Tennessee and Western Kentucky. We have, let's see here, Eastern Kentucky, which has by the way, all of these FCS teams have fulfilled the requirements for FBS upgrade already in regards to the stadium. Now, other sports and other things like their university levels, I'm not aware of that. Jacksonville State University in Alabama could replace UAB. We've got Chattanooga in Tennessee, not far from MTSU. Let's see here. We've got Youngstown State up in Ohio, which could bridge the gap with some of the northern schools. We've got, let's see here. McNeese State down in Louisiana would be a great travel partner for there. I've heard rumors of Sam Houston State talking to CUSA, so that could keep that there. And then we've got, of course, La Tech. Now, the one outlier is still FIU, but if you pull in these FCS possibilities, right, for upgrade, then you really have a regional core within driving distance in the center, right? And then the outliers, you could make basically two divisions. You could even add, I call them FCS long shots, kind of some FCS teams that I think might actually deserve. Why don't we go after some HBCUs like Jackson State, in Jackson, Mississippi? That will kind of make like a Louisiana, it's like a South regional area there with Alabama. FAMU, I mean, I don't know that they would, but because they have so much tradition in their conferences and HBCU football, but it'd be great to see them join like a larger league in this regard. VCU up here, you could give a travel partner to Liberty, maybe even UD or Delaware. Of course, these are all hypotheticals, but I think for the smaller conferences, it makes a lot of sense for people to find a way to be more regional. You don't have to travel so far. In this case, you could make a Southwestern Conference or a South Conference and a North Conference. And then, of course, the football-only schools being the outliers. What if UTEP joined the WAC and then they did football at the FBS level? Maybe there could even be some sort of agreement between the WAC and Conference USA so that if people want to put their football teams into FBS, they could be in Conference USA, but then stay in the WAC to keep things regional. Be interesting. Anyways, I think there's a lot of possibilities, and I don't think all is lost, but I do recognize that, but I think we have to recognize the realities of money, travel, time, and competition, right? So it sounds like at this point, some of this is pretty close to what they're proposing anyway. So it looks like we may have Liberty, New Mexico State, and at least UConn in that sort of save the league scenario. Last I also heard was Missouri State might be added to the area. So anyways, it's fun to talk about, it's fun to think about, and hopefully we'll have a new set of competition for the future.